Oh, we'll just honk.
Okay. Pass that down to Dave when you're done with it.
Pass it down.
When you're done with it.
Paul? Did you sign?
Pass it to David
You
here.
said after you signed, though, did you sign?
Do I need to sign it?
Oh, you don't have to? Okay.
No, he doesn't need to. That's
Oh, yeah, I can't go. My body won't let me go anymore.
Here often?
Oh,
But you're welcome.
yeah, I see that.
Every once in a
I
while.
will not be around.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's meeting. Please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Okay. Acknowledgement that Tlingit people have been indigenous to this land for over 10,000 years. Thank you to the Tlingit people for their stewardship of the Tlingit Ani since time immemorial and today. Okay. Does not look like we have any visiting Rotarians.
Yeah, you do.
We have we have visiting Rotarians, I'm sorry.
Yeah, come on,
Do we
look out.
have visiting Rotarians?
Yes.
Yes,
So we're,
well, guess.
we're from Ketchikan.
Steve and Eileen, yeah, Steve and Eileen Patton from Ketchikan.
Welcome. Okay, and then we have two speakers, speaker and helper, however that's gonna work out. And we have Melissa, who's joined us today, because we have a city person here, so we need that more, so Melissa comes more. Just, I put it together before, but, anyway, so welcome. Do we have any Rotary announcements? John?
You going first or second?
Jump tickets are a week, 4,300 sold, leaving us with 1,700, so we're on track to end sometime in May. We do need to get a couple more folks to work the tables, preferably some folks who haven't been, so that our potential purchasers can see some different faces. So let me know, or let Sharon know, and I'll take care of it. Thanks for all your support.
Okay. So in case if you guys didn't hear him, his talk's kind of low. We're looking for more people to sell duck race tickets at the store. If anyone has availability, let John know or let me know. And then we can make that happen. So we have some different people, so maybe different people will buy them, because a lot of the people who, those of us have already been selling, we've already seen the people we know. And sometimes that's helpful. Hey, Dan.
Madam President, thank you. I'm wearing my duck race shirt, but that's not why I'm standing up. Paul just signed himself in. We're doing our annual trip to Goddard for maintenance on May 18th. That's a Saturday. Our friends at Allen Marine have generously donated a boat again. It's a big one this time, a 65-foot monohull. We can take 40 people. So we, luckily enough, have, as usual, the assistance of the AmeriCorps folks who will do the work because they're young. And we'll direct them, shove them around. Paul just signed himself up. There's enough room. You can bring a guest if you'd like, Paul. I'll be announcing it more and more before we get there, but May 18th, trip to Goddard, rain or shine, ladies and gentlemen, rain or shine or snow or sleet or shine. So, it's our normal thing. We'll do some maintenance of what's the city's equipment, and they don't mind. In fact, we sure we let them know about it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I haven't, does anyone else have an announcement before I start?
Oh, Sharon, Kari.
Oh, Kari, hey, go ahead.
Hi there. I do have an announcement. I'm going to partner with Enzo here in the near future. We're going to pick a date, hopefully soon, for a fundraiser social at my house with Brazilian food. And we'll recruit some sous chefs to help Enzo as well. So stay tuned for a social date between now and mid-May, before Goddard. I promise we won't compete with that time. But Jay, I texted you some date ranges, and so if you can get with your roommate there and let me know, and then Enzo, I'll get a hold of you and we'll do some planning. So stay tuned.
I didn't get your text, and you email me.
I texted you about 4 minutes ago.
Oh. Well, I don't have my phone.
No, that's okay, you have a life, and that's a good thing.
Oh, hey there. Yep, I got it.
All right, great.
I'll get back to you.
Thanks, Carter.
If I could, I'll do a plug for a public meeting next Wednesday for Lakehurst Monastery Kincaid project. We're rebuilding the road utilities in that section. If anybody wants a flyer, I got some up here, and it's next Wednesday at 6:30 to 8, meeting room 6 at Centennial Hall.
Thank you. Okay, so tentatively, I have planned for the Kids Fishing Day to be June 8th. Just so you guys can kind of get that on your radar. I still have to confirm with Fish and Game and the Forest Service, but that's usually the date we do it. It's the Saturday after the Salmon Derby is done. So unless there's some issue, that's the date it's going to be. We'll get more information as we get closer. I just wanted to throw the date out there so people know. And let me see, so we had a board meeting last night. Dan will be working on the minutes if he hasn't already. He's usually pretty quick with that. So if anyone is interested in what happened, he usually sends those out to everybody, the draft board
I shipped it down
board
before.
minutes. So feel free to read those. If you guys have any questions, let us know. Some of the things we did come up with is that we are going to be needing a new treasurer for next year. We could use a foundation chairperson and a PR chairperson. If anyone has any questions about what those entail, get a hold of me. If you're wondering about the treasurer, you probably best talk to John, since he's our current treasurer. So if anyone has any interest, just let one of us know, me or John or Jay. Anyway, so there were some other things, but go ahead.
I'd like to announce that Dave has agreed to be secretary again for another year.
Yay,
So-
thank you. Okay. Anyway, so if anyone has any questions about what any of those entail, let us know, and we'll go over it with you. And I think that's all I have for announcements. So, one other thing, the Kiva committee. So I emailed the membership, and 2 of the members responded that aren't on the board to be in the committee. So, I mean, we probably have enough to get started, so we'll figure out a date that works for everybody and go from that. If you guys did not email me back and you are interested in being on the committee to give out the loans, then just let me know. Okay.
When did you email that out?
You responded.
Oh, the real early one, way of time ago.
Yep.
Sorry, I thought you meant recently.
No, it was, I don't know, it was last week, the week before, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Maybe.
got
Yeah,
it.
that one.
I thought you meant last couple of days.
Oh, no.
Haven't seen it.
Nope. Anyway, so we're gonna have Ed come up. He's going to introduce our speaker for today.
Well, our speaker today is Gary White from the city of Sitka, who's going to give us an update on the Gary Paxton Industrial Park road haul-outs. And did you want to say anything too, or how do you guys want to tag team? How do you
Yeah,
want to do it?
we're tag teaming. I'm Michael Harmon, city engineer for the city, and Gary's running with it here, but I'm here just running the project. So if there's any project-related questions, I can help out with that.
It's all yours.
All right. I'm gonna do a few things here just to get it all set up.
Gary, while you're working on that, I'll ask Michael. Michael, are the piles gonna be spiral welded or straight?
Straight.
Very good. See, we're killing time here.
All right, you guys see that? My presentation up? We'll start from the beginning. So, good afternoon. My name is Gary White. I actually work for the Sitka Economic Development Association. And I have a contract with the city and borough to help manage the industrial park. And I work with Melissa and Michael very closely to try to help develop this park and make it an economic generator for the community. So we're gonna run over the haul out project here. I'm sure most of you probably heard about it. So historically, the city and borough took, I'm sorry?
Are you sharing
Yeah, right here.
with the Zoom people? On your?
Yeah, it says you are sharing the screen.
Okay, I couldn't see it there. Just want to make sure. They're going to start texting me if you're not.
Okay. And hopefully people can see me. I'm jumping back and forth on the camera here. All right. So city and borough took over this property back in the late 90s, and there was the formation of the Gary Paxton Industrial Park Board in 2000. And ever since then, there's been a couple of goals at the park. One of the goals has been to build a deep water dock. We did that. I think it was open in operations, what, 15 or 18, something like that?
16, right?
16. So we got that done, and another big project is to put in a marine haul-out facility. For decades, we had the Halibut Point Marine out the road that hauled out all our local vessels, and they went out of business in the spring of 22. And so we've been trying to get funding for this project forever. We've gone out for federal and state legislative priorities. It's always been a priority of the city and borough to get funding for it. We've applied for multiple grants. We've been really close to getting them. We put out RFPs for private sector development, asking for private sector people to do it. We had 3 different RFP processes. We've had 3 different groups interested, but none of them could really put it together because it's really not a huge money generator. And then in October of 22, the citizens got together, and of the folks that voted, 80% of the folks said, hey, we want to take $8.18 million and put it towards the project. That $8.18 million was the amount of money that the community got from selling Sitka Community Hospital. So we took that money, and by code and charter, it has to go into the permanent fund. So the vote of the people was to extract that same amount of money out of the permanent fund, put it into this project, and we started. And knowing that this was a big deal, because here we have one of the biggest fishing fleets in the state, and we don't have a way for our fishermen or any of our maritime folks to haul their vessels out, we jumped on it immediately. Michael and I developed a project charter, which kind of outlines how this whole project runs and the money available, and I'll outline that here later. But within less than a month of the vote passing, we were moving on it. And so part of the project charter is we have some goals, and we've done this by talking to the community, having multiple public meetings. CETA did, and we did a marine survey, written thing, asking people what they wanted to see. And we figured that 150-ton lift would service about 96% of the fleet. There's some of the bigger boats that can't be hauled out, but we can't do everything for everybody at this time with the funds we have. Just for reference, the facility out at McGraw's or Halibut Point Marina was an 88-ton lift. El Marines has a 150-ton lift. We figured this was a good spot to be. We looked at Wrangell. Wrangell had a 150-ton lift. Kuna's got a 220-ton lift. Wrangell also has a 300-ton lift. And so we wanted to build this so we could put our 150-ton lift on there. But we also wanted to make sure that we could expand it in the future, because the ultimate goal would be also to be like Wrangell and put in a 300-ton lift so we can get some of these larger tender boats. But also, there's a lot of boats that are fishing out in western Alaska that end up in Puget Sound, and there's an ability to have those guys stop here and get their work done. So we're trying to build this as a huge economic generator for the community. Currently, we have a vessel ramp there where at one point, the plan is to have a ramp and have boats get hauled out on big bags of air and roll them up, and because we've never had a budget until we got the 8.18 million. So we were always trying to figure out creative ways to do this. And now people really like that ramp, so we're going to try to make sure that that ramp comes back in, because we're going to build the haul out over top where the ramp is, because it's the best location. Of course, we want to develop the uplands and do a shipyard, because we want to support all of our marine services folks, our welders, our shipwrights, everybody that works on boats out there. We want to retain and grow local jobs, and then we need critical infrastructure. If your boat has a hole in it and you're going down, unless there's nobody in Allen Marine slings, there's no place for you to go. It's up on the beach. So this is really important to have something in town for, based off of the size of our commercial fishing fleet. And then while we were applying for these grants, we did what was called a benefit cost analysis. And we wanted to look at what was the impacts to the fishermen by not having a haul out here. And we looked at the amount of fuel and time they're spending to go to another port to come back. We looked at, when you're traveling to get work done, you're not fishing, you're not producing any income. And we also looked at, with climate change and everything, what was the emissions impact of all these vessels traveling? And it's pretty substantial. I want to say that whole package together over 20 years is like $29 million that's being expended by us not having a haul out in our own community. So this is the project charter. You can find this on the City and Borough's website. We have a website dedicated to the GPIP haul out. And as you can see, we have, folks on Zoom can't see, but we have, some of the stuff we've done, some of the stuff that's upcoming, and then what our project budget is, how much money we have secured. You guys see my cursor? Yeah. And then, what our shortfall is. So this project, as everything has lately, is kind of ballooned in costs. Right now, it's a $15 million project, and it's just for phase one. We broke it into phases. Phase one is to get 150-ton lift in, get boats up on the yard, get them washed down, treat the washdown water, and basically just a real primitive yard, but a primitive yard's better than no yard. So as you can see, we've got the project's about $15 million. We've got about 9.2, secured, which leaves us about $5.8 million short. Some of the things that we've done, I'm going to go back up one here. Here we go. So if we look at some of this recently completed stuff, we actually did this very thoughtfully, and we wanted to make sure that the community was involved. So we immediately put out a professional service agreement to have a group come in and kind of do some of the site investigations and look at how to build this in the best, for the most cost-effective and the best needs of the community. So they were on the ground in March, I believe, out there looking and doing technical stuff to figure it out. And then we had to figure out what site in the park was the best spot for it. And so we developed this decision matrix that looked at the cost of construction, the operational efficiencies, how could we expand this project in the future, and where is the less overall risk. And we have that all figured out and set up in 3 different spots in the park, and one came out as the best spot, the Gary Paxton Industrial Park Board of Directors. That's kind of the governance recommendatory body to the assembly overall. They decided that site number 2, which is the site that I'll show you in a map here, where we're going to develop. From there, we did is now we had our site, and we went out and talked to, we got some preliminary plans drawn up, 4 different options of how to develop it. And then we went out and we talked to Wrangle Group. We actually have the guy that developed the Wrangle haul out and managed it for years on our team to help figure out, so we can do, we already got somebody that tried to figure it out and did a great job. Let's put them on our team. And then we went out and talked to folks at Allen Marine, past operators at the Halibut Point Marina, and then they sat down and kind of looked at all of the different options and came up with their recommendations of what was the best option. And then we took that option to the GPIP board, and they agreed to it. We set up our budget, and the assembly approved it. So this is our base items right here, what we're calling our base bids. And you can see that we have, on the side here is we've got 8.2 million, roughly. And then these are all the things that, in red, that we couldn't afford. So Melissa and I worked really hard and got us a Denali Commission grant for $1 million last year, which that will It is specifically for the piece of equipment, so that $1 million is gonna go towards the 150-ton travel lift or whatever machine we're gonna select, which we're doing that at 2 o'clock today. Our RFPs are coming in and we'll decide, well, we won't decide, whoever got the lowest bid is gonna be our machine provider. So that makes it up to 9.2, so we can add back a couple of things, and we're gonna add back in a permanent concrete washdown pad. We upgraded our machine a little bit. We're gonna have all-terrain tires on it, which allows us to not have to spend a lot of money on the yard itself. This machine with all-terrain tires will go up over curves, will go through potholes. So it's gonna save us money in site development, but it's gonna allow us to get boats moving quicker and faster. And so in the future, there's a lot of things that we're gonna wanna do. We're gonna wanna get, of course, better site grading and drainage. We wanna get a yard transporter so we can move boats around. And I'm gonna show you all pictures of this stuff later. And put a queuing float in and all kinds of stuff. So that's where our 5.8 is in our short. But with our 9.2 that we have secured, next year we should be able to have boats being hauled out of the water. I kind of went over all the time frame that we had, kind of the past stuff, and if you look where we're at right now, we're still in, well, the geotech work's been done. That gave us a few surprises. The water column was way deeper, or I'm sorry, not the water column, but the depth to bedrock was way deeper than we thought it was. And it was interesting because, I should just go to a map here, but anyways, we had former geotech work from when we were working on the dock, and it was getting shallower as you went towards shore. So we figured it was gonna be shallower as you kept going toward shore. Nope, it got deeper. And so that was a little bit of a curved ball, but we had to adjust our design and get it back going. So right now we've got our 35% design done. We put out a bid to hire a contractor to actually build this. That bid closed, when did that close?
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and so now we've got Western Marine as our marine contractor on board. We've sat in, Michael and I this morning, we've been sitting in meetings now where we have the engineering firm that's drawn up the 35% design, and we have the contractor and us all speaking together and trying to figure out how we can refine that design to, one, make sure that it's gonna be adequate, but also how we can find cost savings in it. And that's the first time I've been involved in this type of model, and I gotta say, it's a really good way to go. All these engineer guys are talking, and I'm spacing out because I'm not an engineer. I don't know what they're talking about, but they're putting in a lot of good work to figure out, hey, if we do this, can we do this instead? And it's kind of a cool thing to have contractors and engineers working together instead of engineers drawing the plans and then contractors just building it, right? Everybody's working together. So that's going. We've got our bids coming in today for our machine. We hope to have the 65% design here in, help me out,
Into May.
So, and at that point, we'll start being able to get a more defined cost of what everything's gonna cost to see if we can go back and add on some of those, add alternates to get more things out of our $9.2 million. We're still working for grants. Melissa and I just finished another grant that's into the Denali Commission now to put electrical work in there, into the project. So a lot of good stuff's coming forward, and I'm really pleased on the progress of this project. So this is the concept that the board approved, and our subject matter expert groups, the group that were former haul-out operators. And as you can see here, this has been adjusted a little bit. This is our first design. We had to adjust it once we found out that our water columns were deeper than we thought. But as you can see here in yellow, this is going to be the existing footprint. And this is 32 foot wide in here, which is going to haul out all of our 150-ton boat range. A lot of the limit seiners have gotten wider because they're capped at 58 feet or 60 feet and below. So they're getting wider so they can haul more product. And that's one of the competitive advantages we're going to have over Wrangell. Theirs is at 28 feet, and they're already getting limited on which boats they can haul. So we went wider to 32. 32 also allows us to haul, for instance, Allen Marine boats that are local boats here, because they're about 32-foot beam wide. And so, and then we have the ability to expand this in the future in the gray here, up to 36-foot wide, and then this is where our 300-ton lift will run if we ever find the funding to be able to do so. So you can see this, the upper pier length is wider. That's going to accommodate the wider lift in the future. And then we've got, so we're using the same footprint, which it's less money going forward. We're building the first section more skookum than we would have to, but we're building it because it's going to help us moving forward in the future to be able to haul some of these larger boats. And there's some economic data out there that shows that these larger boats spend more money in the yard. Their projects are bigger. So that helps our marine service people. It helps our tax base. It helps bringing these other boats into town. It helps everything around the way here. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill in out here. And then this is where our ramp's at now. And so this ramp's going to go away. We're going to put in rock. We're going to have our piers here and be able to haul vessels. And so I was going to go through a couple of pictures here. So this is the 150-ton lift, what it looks like. This is actually Wrangell's lift. And so you can see that guy's going to run out on those piers and be able to haul boats. And then in the future, we want to get a 300-ton lift. I'm not sure we're going to get an ASCOM because there's altogether that. But anyways, we'll be able to do a 300-ton lift in the future with funding available. And then this is kind of what the Hooney yard looks like. As you can see, they've got their piers going out. They've also got the double wide there, and the boats are up on the deck there. So this is our full development. Conceptual drawings. This will change. So the first part, I'm going to drop down one. This is our first part here. This is we're considering this the north yard, and then down here with all this stuff is the western yard. This is up here. Up here is phase 1, and this is phase 1 and 2. So this is considered the western yard. We're not going to be able to develop this with the funds we have. That, by the way, is another $15 million that we don't have. But with this, as you can see, we have our piers going out. We have our vessels coming out. They'll go over here to a washdown pad. And this is roughly 100 by 50 foot wide, so we can put multiple boats on it. And with EPA and DEC requirements, all of the water, once you wash your boat, has to be captured and treated. And so this is a big concrete pad, so all of everything you're blowing off your boat with your pressure washer will be captured. It will go through a water treatment facility, and then it will be discharged. And then boats will come over here and be put in all of these spots here. This may or not, this little orange section here, may or may not be used for marine side businesses, or it might just be an open yard, more because we don't want to limit our spaces when folks can come and work in the yard. As you notice here, in kind of a donut hole in the middle here, this is the former boat company building that the city and borough received for free back in, I can't remember when that happened, but we ended up getting that building back for free. We ended up leasing it to Northline Seafoods that had some stuff going on out there. That was turned into SIAC Industries. We had a lease to purchase agreement on that building. They ended up purchasing it, and then they realized that building wasn't going to work for them, so the city and borough bought it back with funds outside of the haul-out project, mainly from our bulk water proceeds that we've received over the years, which is about $1.5 million over, I don't know, 15 years. And so this will be a good spot to have offices for whoever's going to operate the haul-out. It's going to have a nice, probably 5,000 square foot warehouse, which then the boards can decide what's going to happen with that. My preference is we put a mini LFS or Western, somebody out there to have a lot of the consumables, having, filters and anodes and anything that you're going to need while you're working on your boat. And then in the future, of course, we'll want to build out this second yard to get us bigger. But the cool thing with the all-terrain tires is we might be able to come over here. And then, so with that Denali Commission grant I spoke of, none of our phase 1 or phase 2 has any electrical infrastructure in the ground. We've heard that from a lot of the fishermen and from the GPIP board, is that they'd like to have electricity brought to all of these little spaces, so when you're working on your boat, you can just plug in whatever you want. Knowing that that was a luxury and the funding we didn't have, because frankly you could go rent a gen set and still get your work done, it's just not as convenient for you. And we tried to be strategic in our Denali Commission grant, in the fact that, hence that's federal money, we don't want to federalize the whole waterfront part of the project, as there's a whole bunch of regulatory environment that exists with federal monies on waterfront development that's not there if you're using city money. So, and that would have increased the time and cost of the project. So we come down here, this is one of our goals also, is to get a yard transporter, because if you look, a lot of these stalls are pretty thin in here, and a 32-foot wide machine is not going to have the same efficiency of pushing boats as a machine that's quite narrow. So the plan would be to have the boats get set up here on the washdown. The big lift goes and continues to pull boats. Our yard transporter comes in and then picks those boats and takes them to the individual stalls. That's one of our add alternates. This is also something that if we do end up going into an operational plan, and I'm going to talk about that later, the operations, that could be also be provided by a third party. This is kind of the washdown pad that was being built in Hoona, and I don't know if you can see the white little tubes here. This is all PEX tubing, so it's going to be heated. What they found in Wrangell, which they didn't do this, is on cold days, it's an ice skating rink, and we want to be able to use this in all types of environments and all types of tides. This is like a typical building that is in Hoona. This is their washdown. I'm sorry, this is their water treatment plant. They also have the ability to have restrooms here. When we bought this building here, now we don't need that building, or we can use this building. So it was somewhat of a cost savings. I think we had $1 million budgeted for that, building this type of building here, which ridiculous, I know, but that's the way things work nowadays. And there's some of the other stuff, we're gonna have to have water and fencing and utilities, and these are the pedestals that we're trying to work to get it put in with the Denali Commission grant. And this is some more water collection stuff. All this engineering stuff that I'm not involved in, those guys are. So kind of what our immediate next steps are. We're still doing environmental permitting. That's a regulatory thing that's happening now. Unfortunately, it takes longer than I want it to be, but it's happening, and this is kind of the thing that's outside of the city and borough's control. This is the thing that's dragging it out longer than, we could start in May, we could start pounding piling, but we can't, because we have to go through this whole environmental permitting thing. So like I explained about the CMAR process, which is the engineers and the contractors working together, that's happening. They're working on this final preliminary design, not final, but this preliminary design. They're going to start ordering materials and everything else so we can start meeting the lead times. Like I said, our haul-up machine comes in this afternoon at 2. That's got a 10-month lead time, so we're hopefully going to be able to move really quickly through the GPIP board, and I know we're getting one submission at least. So if we don't get any more and then one comes through, we can go to the GPIP board on the 22nd, is when I'm having my next meeting, and be able to enter into a contract to get our machine coming. And then we have to work on our boat yard management and operational plan. This is going to take some community input, a lot of analysis going. I've heard Wrangell is pretty strong on that their haul-up needed to be run by the municipality, and they have a number of reasons why that it should go that way. And one of them is that there's really not a profit margin in there, right? I mean, city and boroughs aren't trying to make profit, they're trying to provide a service. And if we can provide a service that's going to break even, potentially our costs can come down. And there's also, that this was built with our money, our local money, that then there's local oversight to it, right? We're not turning over our investment to somebody else. And then we can keep more of of public oversight for public money. Then there's also the benefit, there's also the argument for a privately run operation is that they have a profit margin or a profit motive in there, and they're gonna wanna move really efficient and get a lot of boats out of the water and try to make money off of this, as they should. But there's also, so what we're doing is we're developing an RFP to go out and ask for private entities to come in and say, hey, here's our haul out, these are our plans, who wants to come and operate it? Tell us what parts of it that you'd like to operate. Would you like to do the whole thing? Would you just like to drive a lift back and forth? Would you just like to do a yard transporter? And it's set up as an open negotiation to look at what kind of compensation is the private operator looking for, what kind of compensation is the city and borough gonna get back, and what kind of services do you plan on doing? With a couple of things that are non-negotiable. Non-negotiable is there's public oversight. And their public oversight will be related to around how rates are set. And that it's another one, a non-negotiable is that it's an open yard, meaning that if XYZ company gets it, they can't haul their boats and shut everybody out and say, like the Seward yard, if you go up to Seward, you show up with your boat, you hand over the keys to your boat and you go home, and the group up there pulls your boat, does all the work, and hands you a bill and your keys back. Well, a lot of our guys want to do their own work. And so by having an open yard, it will allow the boats to get set. And if you want to come in and do your own sandblasting, painting, diesel work, whatever, or if you want to hire, instead of XYZ, hire ABC, you have the ability to do that. That keeps the economy kind of competitive and diversified. So we're gonna look at this plan on how to move forward, and this is actually what Kodiak did. We basically copied Kodiak's RFP. They started out as a publicly run haul out, and they realized that there was probably some more efficiencies getting into having a privately run. And they moved that way, and they're doing great. The haul out facility there is doing great. But for instance, Juneau's one of the highest rates in Southeast for haul out boats. It's about $25 a foot for 0 to 80 foot boats. Kodiak's 0 to 80 foot boats, $69 a foot. So there's a big difference there of whether the fleet would be able to absorb such a large difference in haul out fees. And so we're going to be running down the path with this operational RFP to see where we're going to be. But at the same point, we're going to be working on our own in-house numbers. I've got the back of the napkin analysis on where we can break even. But I'm going to be working with the city and borough finance department to figure out PERS liabilities and everything else that has to go into a municipal run operation. And then we can have a community discussion of, is this the best option or is this the best option? And see where it ends up. Look at that, I got 10 minutes left, that's all I had. Michael, you want to add anything?
I don't think so. We'll cover just any questions that anybody has. We're happy to help with.
How many boats a year can a haul out like this handle? Is there a target number or?
Well, we've heard all kinds of statements from folks on how Halibut Point Marina. I've heard that they haul 600 boats a year. I've heard that at the end they're hauling 250 boats a year. And a lot of the data I have is on linear feet, like how many linear feet did they haul per year? And it's kind of hard to extrapolate that because I don't know if they're all 58-foot boats, if they're all 32-foot patrollers or whatever. So yeah, well, the goal is to haul obviously as many as we can, because I would love to fill this overall yard up. And as you can see, this has, I want to say 63 spots in this one here. So if you have 63 boats in the yard every day, that's a lot of boats. Now granted, most of those boats are going to be there 4 to 5 days getting work done.
The machine can haul a lot, so your limiting factor is gonna be more your yard side and people to service the boats, and just the economy itself. There's limiting times that commercial fleet wants to be out of the water and not fishing, so just by that little window, there's only so much you can do in those times. But the machine itself, if you keep it running all year round, could do huge numbers, bigger than what the uplands and the current shipwrights could probably support, so kind of limited by that.
Yeah, if you think about it, I think they can haul roughly about 10 a day, 365 days. I mean, there's a lot of boats could get hauled.
So being your neighbor out there at Fortress, it looks like phase 2 is when any major utility work would be done, is that correct?
Well, utilities, you're talking electrical and,
Yeah.
well, that's, we hope to get that into phase 1 if we get this Denali Commission grant, but we don't have the funding for it. So we'll find out. And the Denali Commission grant, we looked at that very strategically. We're asking for 50% of the amount to get, and that's only electricity in this northern yard here.
Okay.
And then if we get the Denali Commission grant, we're gonna use those funds to leverage to go after an EDA grant to get the full amount to do this. We're looking at every single way we can find funding to do it.
But that is correct, as it currently sits right now, phase 1 will not have much utility other than storm drain and storm drain treatment for the immediate area of the waterfront side.
So my next question, in that, does that include like fiber optic or any of that in phase 2?
Not as it sits
Okay.
right now, no.
Okay.
It is astounding as another $15 million is, it doesn't have that in the budget right now to bring anything out to the park itself, which is kind of what would be needed for something like that.
Well, GCI sales rep keeps telling me they can
Yeah.
get fiber out to the Fortress, but I keep not calling back, so I just was curious.
Of absolutely no importance at all, but I'm having trouble orienting this map. Which way's north?
To your left.
This way, over here is north, which is weird because you would think, being at the park, that north would be over here. But it's
Yeah.
not, it's over here. The way that the cove's situated like that.
Okay, but so north is to the left.
Yep.
I got it.
Fortress
Thank
of
you.
the Bears to the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was just having a disconnect between the north yard and the west yard.
Yeah.
When the way it looks is, that isn't right. So, okay, thank you.
Dan, go ahead.
Michael, Enzo would like to know more about the wastewater treatment systems for the washdown. You know, which different types of systems, is there gonna be a solid waste and treatment, and how about, what do they call those things? Heavy metal.
So the washdown pad right now, I mean, the regulations will continue to evolve, and I could see a day where this whole park, where you're running a shipyard, could end up at the level of a washdown pad down the line. But washdown pad's the top treatment priority, and that will go to the sewage treatment plant. And it will have basic oil water separator, try and settle out as much of the solids out of that before it goes into the solid waste system. The outside of the washdown pad, it's gonna go to a stormwater treatment system that will discharge into the bay right there. And that's what I could see changing. I could see a day where everything's gonna have to go to the wastewater treatment plant down the line, but right now, we don't have to do that.
So the wash plant's actually gonna go into the pressure system that's at the site and then go to town?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep, and then the treatment of the storm water will be through oil water separators and filter treatment devices.
I'm glad Enzo asked this question.
I know.
Have a feeling.
I would think that once you have the ability to pull boats out and a place to put them, the pressure to get more service companies, shipwrights, is gonna be tremendous. everybody's gonna be wanting to do that, I would think, during certain times of the year.
Yep, and like I said, I'm worried, like this design here shows that we can fit 63 boats in here, but if you notice, it has no room for shops out there, right? But I look over here, and I don't own this property, and I haven't had many conversations except trying to convince them, is that this is all owned by Silver Bay Seafoods, and as you can see, this is where they're storing gear. I can think of better places to store gear, but once again, I don't own that property, and I would hope that as this evolves, that some of the private owners out there are going to see benefits in being able to capture some of this additional revenue to have shops out there, welding shops and everything else.
So what about vehicle parking for service folks and boat owners and that kind of thing? Do you have that planned?
We do. So this is, like I said, these are conceptual drawings. As you can see here, in front of the Hanson dock, we have parking. But in this one, I'm sorry, we have boats there, but in this one we have parking. So I think we're going with this right now.
Yeah, it's the more updated version. We kind of looked at it big picture with the board initially, and now we're really just looking at phase one, and it's more updated on this drawing of where to put what, and we were thinking that was a good spot for the general car parking.
And you might see fencing here in the future, once we find the funding to do that. I mean, we want to keep this, like, I'm out there quite often, and there's a lot of people that run their dogs to that. Excuse me, but we shouldn't have dogs running around where boats are being hauled, or tourist activities or anything else like that.
In the current funding level, really just building the, don't want to leave with too high of expectations, but we're building the marine side pile dock in the fill area here. From that fill area back, it's gonna look like how the park is now, other than the operator coming in and cleaning it up, organizing it, doing some grading, but the actual project funding pretty much as we sit, it's this fill area, the washdown pad, and the marine piers in. So it's a nice depiction of where we want to go, but you won't be seeing that next spring when this opens up. That you'll see all these nice parking spots. There won't be any pavement or any of that sort of stuff yet.
Since there's much government grant money in this, will you be paying Davis-Bacon premium wages on this work?
For the project, yes. Yeah, all city projects fit under that, and municipal funded projects.
And then I was wondering what happens to the old grid downtown? Can that be sold and that revenue put into this project?
I think the grid's still an important partner to this, an important asset to the city, as long as environmentally we can still do that. And we know that day could likely come to an end as well, but as long as we can operate it, it provides a very affordable way for some to use it in emergencies as well, depending on what you're doing. It just, I think it piggybacks with this well. You know, these lifts, depending on the time of year, I mean, the lift can be pretty busy with a seiner or something that's taking time, and if somebody's got to get on something right away, the grid provides yet another option. So.
Okay, any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for a great presentation. You want to talk about next week? Jeff, are you on? You want to tell us about next week? He was there.
His helicopter is there.
That's his beanie hat, I think.
Oh, excuse me.
Mayor Sitka will be here, Stephen Eisen. Eisenbeiss, thank you. I wanted to do it wrong. We'll be here next week to talk to us.
So I know that Jeff had emailed out, if you guys have specific questions, it's basically gonna be, he's not doing a presentation on something, he's gonna interact and answer questions. So if you guys have questions that you've not emailed to Jeff or me, or you might wanna do that so that he can have the answers ready. I'm sure he'll be able to answer stuff if he doesn't get them beforehand, but if there's anything, you know, really involved, might give them time to look into it. So, any other announcements from anybody? Nope. Okay, have a good week.
That's the kind of stuff that I think about.
Keeps you awake at night, huh?